Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call the meeting of the Diversity Committee to order. My name is Rhonda Herman, and I'm the chair of the Diversity Committee. At this time, I would like to introduce our new committee member, Linda Lacewell. Commissioner Lacewell, welcome. And I'd like to also acknowledge that the chair of MTA, Patrick Foy, is with us. Welcome. And Michael, are there any public speakers today?
Yes, there's 4 speakers.
Yes, we have the following 4 public speakers. Dr. Vincent Boudreau, the president of the City College of New York. Kirian Spillane, the project manager for the 2nd Avenue Subway. Judy Sanchez, who is a 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2 summer intern. And Flavia Bepler, a former intern and now a permanent 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2 staff member. Each speaker has 3 minutes to speak. The first speaker is Dr. Vincent Boudreau.
Thank you to the chair, and thank you all for listening to the presentation today. I want to say 3 things today. I want to say, first of all, the importance of internships written large. This is simply how people are being hired today. 60% of college students today get internships. And one of the things that we found in the relationship between paid internships and unpaid internships is an unpaid internship yields 0 benefit in terms of employment as compared to someone who has no internship at all. So you might as well spend your time in a classroom if you're thinking of an unpaid internship. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One reason is the internship placement itself doesn't regard unpaid labor as valuable as something that they pay for. Very, very often an unpaid intern is thrown into a setting and given no guidance, whereas a paid internship means that either the internship placement or the institution has invested enough in this person's future that they're going to take their placement seriously. We know that in our college, the deal that we had offered, and many colleges have done this with paid internships versus unpaid internships, is if you were in an unpaid internship, we would say, well, we'll give you college credit. So it'll be like taking a course. But think about what that means. It means that somebody who is doing uncompensated labor is actually paying the college tuition dollars for the privilege of working in an uncompensated setting for somebody else. So we think so much of unpaid internships at City College that we will no longer allow our students to do that for public or private institutions. That follows New York state law. We are currently in the process of reshifting our priorities in our fundraising so that instead of raising money just for scholarships for tuition, we're devoting more and more of the resources we have to funding student internships. We believe so strongly that this is how our students are going to make it into the job market. I will say this as well, that what we find time and again with City College students when they go out in the job market, many of whom are the first in their families to go to college, many of whom don't have professional role models in their immediate family or in their neighborhood, the thing that an internship will give them is a sense of how you carry yourself in the profession. And in an unpaid internship that is structured like employment, where there's a commitment to mentoring a young person, the students come away from 6 months or a year with professional comportment. We are so thrilled to be participating in the 2nd Avenue paid internship program. It is our 3rd year doing this. Thank you.
The next speaker is Karen Spillane.
Good afternoon. So I'd like to thank the opportunity to address the MTA today on our paid summer internship program that we've had on the 2nd Avenue Subway. As was mentioned, this is our 3rd summer that we've done this. So we have a process that we've established with City College. We get a pool of about 75 applicants students who've expressed interest. We basically go through those resumes. We pick out a selection of candidates, potential candidates. We interview those candidates. We make offers to the candidates, and then some of the candidates have other opportunities they want to pursue, and then we do have a pool of candidates that accept our offers and begin work. This past year, we started our process. Being the third year in, we've streamlined it with City College. We started in April, where we got those pool of candidates. We completed our interviews by early May, extended offers, and we had those students join us by the beginning of June. So it was right after they completed their semester, and they went right into that summer working for us through the summer and completed their internships in time to go back for their next semester at the start of September. We have two young women who are going to speak to you after me. Ms. Judy Sanchez is a student at City College. She'll speak to a little bit about her experience. And I also want to point out Ms. Flavia Bepler. She actually was a summer intern last year and addressed this committee. And after her graduation from City College, she was offered a full-time position and now works for one of our firms on the project and is continuing her experience. So I just wanted to point that out as a success story. With that, I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Just get the identity again and affiliation of that speaker.
I'm sorry? Oh, sorry. So my name is Kieran Spillane. I'm the project manager of the 2nd Avenue Subway Phase 2 Partnership, and I work for WSP Incorporated. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Judy Sanchez, and I'm just here to speak about the experience that I have during this internship process. And it's been honestly like a very wonderful opportunity as a student, as an architecture student from City College, to have this advantage to actually work with people that meant to mentor us and guide us to this process of, to come up to the professional world. So right now, I'm as a third-year student, architecture student, and it's been very fulfilling, and it's been very productive in a way, because we think more about, more than architecture or more than design. It's just the goal to actually connect to the community. So that's why that's kind of like the wonderful things of architecture or design, is to have that opportunity to actually do something and understand the behavior of the community, of the sites, as this new phase of subway, 2nd Avenue Subway, it's leading to. So it's mostly about creating more connections to the people, and it's just a wonderful experience, and very blessed to work with them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon all. My name is Flavia Bepler. I'm from Brazil. I just graduated from City College, from where I got my master's degrees in engineering, focus on transportation. And I've been working with the 2nd Avenue Subway project since last year, when I was selected for the summer internship program. And recently I was hired from STV to keep the project as an engineering specialist. When I received the letter from STV inviting me to come to the project, to stay in the project and continue doing my work, the first thing that I did, I wrote a post on Facebook telling to my family, my friends, how much I believe in meritocracy, how much I believe in hard work. Because I worked since I was 14 years old. I learned from my mom, who was a teacher, I learned from my father, who was a farmer, that you have to work hard to achieve your dreams. And I started receiving a lot of messages from my family, from my friends, telling me how I inspired them, telling me how they trust on me, how they can relate on me, how they look at me as a hard worker. And I felt that I am carrying some responsibility, because they are looking at me as some example. they're looking at me as someone who represent them. And I didn't feel afraid of to have this responsibility because I'm working a project, amazing project. I'm working with amazing professionals who keep telling me all the time that I'm working a project who is going to affect more than 300,000 people per day. And one of my goal of life, one of my thoughts of life is that my life matters proportionally by how many people I can affect positively. So thank you. Thank you.
And thank you. And Dr. Boudreau, we cut you off, but we wanted to hear what you were going to say about the importance of the relationship between the MTA and the City College.
The opportunity for our students to work on a project. I mean, you just heard it from the last speaker. She is working on a project that's going to change the fabric of our city. Our students spend their whole academic careers wondering if they are good enough to make it in the professional world. And for many of them, the opportunity to work side by side with professionals in a setting like this, where the Second Avenue subway puts them into a position where the work of their days and their hands is going to be reflected in the future of the city, is tremendously important. The average income of a city college family is $40,000 a year, and that equates to a New York City average income of about $57,000 a year for a family. So we're talking about students who, despite the preparation we give them in the classroom, are not used to being on the inside of a project that is so central to the construction of the future of the city as the Second Avenue subway. And so the relationship, the mentoring they get in this project, both through the MTA, but also working with the professionals you hire as subcontractors, is irreplaceable. And it does for them what other students at other colleges often get through family connections, or just, from being around connections to future employment. So this project, all of our internship projects, are delivering something to our students that we simply can't do in the classroom, and that is absolutely necessary to bring them into parity with the rest of college educated people coming into the workforce. So thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
can I just ask how many students are in the program?
There were 9 students in this year's program, and we asked for board to come, but they had class. But we are starting this process again in January, and there is budgeted for amount of up to 14 students. And our goal here is to make sure that the students who are employed on this paid college internship program is reflective of where the project is in Spanish Harlem or East Harlem.
Yes, thank you. And it's a great program, Michael. Next, we have the approval of the June 24th, 2019 Diversity Committee meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I wasn't there, sorry.
Oh, I'll take a motion. Nobody can second?
We got to defer it into next.
Yeah, we're gonna have to
next diversity committee meeting in
Because we
December.
don't have a quorum. Yes, we'll defer approval of these minutes until December. Chair, are there any updates on the Michael, are there any updates on the 2019 work plan?
None.
Are there any comments from the committee member?
Do you mean generally?
Yeah.
So I'm glad Pat is here because I just wanted to reiterate a point that I made when I was fortunate enough to participate in a call in anticipation of this meeting, which it looks like we've made tremendous strides on the MWBE side of the equation. And I encourage, and I think others on the call agreed, that it's time to devote a lot of resources to the diversity of our workforce now. And I'm excited to participate in that.
Yeah, I think, Linda, I would say that I think thanks to Michael Gardner and his team, the MTA has come closest to meeting the governor's 30% goal on procurements. Thank you, and thank you all for that. And I agree with your sentiment that workforce is the next challenge.
Thank you. Michael, can you take us through the executive summary, please?
Yes, most definitely. First up on the agenda is the business and diversity initiatives. And Zenaida?
Hi, good afternoon. The Business and Diversity Initiatives unit has participated in several events for the past quarter, the second quarter, to include hosting the DBE certification sessions in-house. Notably, the MTA agency-wide staff will travel to Albany to participate at the 9th Annual New York State MWBE Forum, hosted by Governor Cuomo, scheduled for next week. This is MTA agency-wide staff specifically geared for MWBEs and SDVOBs to participate on various panel discussions during the two-day conference. The MTA will share information on several contracting opportunities throughout our agencies, as well as the procurement process and the discretionary procurement process. Upcoming this September 27th, this Friday, the DDCR will host an orientation session specifically to promote opportunities for New York State certified law firms. It is a meet and greet. We have invited interagency legal counsel staff to meet some of our New York State certified law firms that have been pre-selected to benefit from the discretionary increase of $1 million in legal assignments. That concludes my presentation.
Yes, and a quick commentary on that. The board members asked us to look at this in 2017, and in 2017 we were paying an average of 4% to our New York State certified MWB law firms. That number increased to 8% in 2018. In the first quarter of this fiscal year, we are currently at 18%. So I'm optimistic that the agencies will achieve Governor Cuomo's 30% MWBE payments with regard to state certified law firms. And this event on Friday is we're inviting 28 certified law firms in to better integrate them into the business practices at each one of the operating agencies. Next, Danny is going to give us an update on our DBE certification efforts. And this is the, if you can go back one, this is the flyer for our event on this Friday. Danny?
Good afternoon. My report is found on page 71 of the diversity book. In the second quarter of 2019, that's April through June, we received 25 new applications compared to 20 last year at this time. We also certified 22 firms during this period, which is twice the amount we certified last year. And I have to give a lot of credit to Zenaida's group for the outreach effort in getting more applicants to apply for DBE certification. That concludes my report.
Great, thank you. I'm going to turn it over now to David Singh, who's going to give us the first and second quarter EEO activities.
Yes, good afternoon. MTA's overall workforce is currently comprised of 74,383 employees, of which 18% are women and 69% are minorities. 3% are veterans, and 0.3% are employees who are self-identified as persons with disabilities. With regards to new hires, MTA-wide, we've hired women and minorities at a higher percentage than their current representation in the workforce. With regards to utilization of women and minorities, it has remained constant when compared to the second half of 2018. This concludes my report.
Thank you, and Dr. Green is going to give us a quick overview on MTA employee workforce who are disabled.
In our last meeting, we decided that we were going to take a deeper dive into different areas of diversity, and we spoke about gender. in the last meeting. And in this meeting, as a request from the chair, we're going to speak out to individuals with disabilities in our workforce. Now, the ideal situation when speaking about ability would be one where the presence of disability, or what I call different ability, is so mainstream that people are no longer surprised by it or uncomfortable with it. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Many employees that have any type of disability are sometimes uncomfortable with disclosing that information. In order to prepare for this presentation, I went to the Department of Labor Statistics, and according to the 2018 Department of Labor Statistics, 19.1% of the U.S. workforce are people with disabilities. And if we David just kind of talked about, we have 74,000 employees. And if we kind of took those numbers and said, okay, 19% of our 74,000, we would expect, based on those statistics, that we'd have about 14,000 employees with disabilities in the workforce. I went a little further. I looked at a recent Harvard review article that indicated that during a recent survey, they identified that 30% of the workforce, the professional workforce, would qualify under the definition of an employee with a disability. Also, in that article, they disclosed that most employees with disabilities deliberately decide when, whether, and with whom to share that disability status. As we look at our workforce and the individuals that have self-disclosed whether or not they have a disability, we see that the numbers here state that we have 269 employees that have voluntarily self-disclosed as employees with disabilities. And that's what you see here on the screen. In the officials and administrative category, we have 66 employees, and these are numbers agency-wide. So this encompasses all 74,000 employees who have self-disclosed that they have a disability. Most people self-disclose when there's a need to self-disclose, and that's typically when there is a request for some type of accommodation for that disability. Many times people bypass accommodations because they still don't want that information out there. So when we look at disabilities in the workplace, we have some that are visible, some that are sometimes visible, and some that are just invisible. Examples of invisible disabilities would be things like hearing loss, sleeping disorders, arthritis, depression, that sort of thing. And as we know from the statistics, as I've just disclosed, that we have many, many employees here that have just not self-disclosed. MTA has simplified the process of voluntarily disclosing a disability, and we have gone out twice in the last 12 months to request that individuals voluntarily disclose whether or not they have a disability. That is one of our requirements, that we do that under FTA, and also there is a legal requirement that if employees have disabilities and need accommodations, that we provide a form to do so. Let's see. The MTA employs various strategies for recruiting, hiring, and retaining employees with different abilities. We partner with community and governmental groups to identify best practices to improve our outreach and access to individuals with disabilities. During the first 2 quarters alone, we have participated in at least 16 targeted events targeting individuals with disabilities. To name a few, we collaborated with the Port Authority on Peoples with Disabilities Project in January. We have partnered with the New York University Rust Institute Business Advisory Committee meeting. They have several meetings where they, and we're going to speak about that a little bit more in the presentation, but we have collaborated with this business advisory group. Microsoft 360 Accessibility in the Workforce Tour, and many, many more. So that we have continued our efforts to partner with and reach out and employ and attract and retain individuals with disabilities.
Great, and Dr. Green, keep going and talk about some of our strategies that we're currently employing.
So some of the strategies that we are employed is one, as I spoke about before, is we partner with the New York University Russ Business Advisory Committee. This group administers a program that helps individuals with disabilities find employment in the competitive marketplace. The meetings that they provide give an opportunity for job-ready candidates to meet and network with potential employers, to build relationships that can lead to job interviews, internships, advice and information, and mentoring opportunities. A lot of these targeted outreach events are headed by HQHR. HQHR sends out information to all of the agencies and asks for our participation and an opportunity for us to collaborate and join together and go to these events. To promote, and now I'm getting on into the president's reports and some of the efforts by HQ. To promote cultural diversity, H2 has coordinated several events which have engaged the MTA-wide workforce. Some of those, as you see, is listed on slide 11. And we've heard already from two of the students from during the public comment period that were reflective of the positive results of the forged partnerships with the joint ventures and the city colleges to provide the paid internships. HQ is working across all agencies to coordinate internal efforts and strengthen external relationships as we continue to address ongoing areas of underutilization, ensure awareness of and adherence to existing and expanded laws pertaining to non-discrimination protections, and identifying strategies to attract and retain a high caliber, diverse workforce. Oops, I think I'm going backwards. Yep.
Great, so thank you, Dr. Green. Now we are going to hear from the agency, starting out with MTA Capital CC.
So as the Chief EEO Officer for Capital CC, I'm going to go ahead and continue here. Jano Lieber, the Chief Development Officer for MTA Capital CC, on this slide here is reconfirming his commitment to diversity. Jano stands as a top champion of diversity. He pushes it from the top down. He has, in all of our executive meetings, stressed the importance of diversity and made me a top priority for and have top access to all of our staff. Starting in 2018 was the first time that we got a chief EEO officer, which was myself. Jano mandated diversity training for all of the employees. During that diversity training, we started with diversity dialogues because we wanted to take the fear and the tabooness out of speaking about diversity and uncomfortable conversations surrounding diversity. In our all-agency meeting that we had, the first of 2018, we took the information that we got from those dialogue sessions and we created our own Respect in the Workplace card, and we had a commitment for all of the MTACC employees to abide by. So they created their own values for respect in the workplace. And this is one of the things that we re-emphasized at the All Hands meeting in January of 2019. We also made sure that every employee was aware of who the chief EEO officer was and comfortable with coming to that officer if they had any concerns. There was email reminders sent to all employees to remind them that we are equal employee opportunity agency and that we value diversity and we do not tolerate discrimination in our workforce. Some of the accomplishments that we have had this year is in our hiring has been very diverse. Our promotions have been very diverse, as you can see on the screen. But we have, because we are capital construction, we have reached out to our community partners, and we want to make sure that people are comfortable with, aware of, and understand our commitment to diversity in the communities where our projects are. I have Joe O'Donnell is going to be here, and he's going to kind of help me talk about some of that outreach efforts. We have a short video that kind of talks about some of the community partnerships and some of the things that we're doing in the community surrounding our projects.
One of the things that we've heard over and over again was that East Harlemites were looking for jobs. So we partnered with the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York to offer job information and apprenticeship program information to East Harlem residents.
We came to the MTA job fair today to promote our apprenticeship programs. We think it's good to get back into the communities and outreach to people that might be interested in a career in carpentry.
You can speak directly to all the different unions and see what they have and how well they'll fit into what you want to do with the rest of your life.
Whenever you use those three initials, MTA, it gets everyone's attention. Events like this in the community establishes that you're really concerned about investing in the people in the East Harlem community.
This is an important event to make sure that we connect the opportunities that come with a capital construction project with actual people from the community who want to work.
I just want to be someone who works hard, works for what he wants in life.
I want to thank the MTA for providing job opportunities for young people and others that want to work in a transportation project across the city of New York. Thank you, MTA.
Yeah, really well done. That's great.
What's exciting about the partnership between PS 96 and the 2nd Avenue Subway is there's an opportunity now to bring what's going on in the community into the classroom, into our curriculums.
Our goal for this program is to turn the construction of the 2nd Avenue Subway into a learning experience for the students of East Harlem.
In the Pixel Lab, we have a collage of all the student work. You go in there and you see projects, you see literature, you see poetry, you see videos, and just all the work that the students did involving the 2nd Avenue Subway. It's just amazing just going around and seeing work from kindergarten students all the way up to 8th grade. It's just amazing seeing it all there together.
The collaboration between PS 96 and the 2nd Avenue Subway has been a really good one, and we are able to address the STEAM initiative, bringing science, technology, engineering, arts, and math into our curriculum in a real hands-on way. It's great. Is it great?
You agree?
Yeah. What I want educators to know about the collaboration is it's an opportunity for students to learn about the real world. It's happening in my community, it's real, they can make that connection.
I am extremely proud because the kids really did excellent work. The teachers worked really hard with the students, and they came up with amazing projects that I'm proud to have on display in the Pixel Lab.
So thank you for having us here today, and you heard from some of my colleagues on 2nd Avenue Subway a little bit earlier, so I'm not going to be too long. I just wanted to indicate that one of the things that we learned from phase 1 of 2nd Avenue Subway was to get out into the community as early as humanly possible. Now, we're out there 2 years in the East Harlem community before we even put a shovel in the ground. We have a community information center there that has entertained over 10,000 visitors already in 2 years. And one of the most reoccurring things, question that we get there is,
job opportunities and employment opportunities, and how can they work with the MTA or on the project. So we partnered with the Building and Construction Trades Council of Greater New York, as well as state labor, to put together the job information program that you saw. And we had over 400 individuals come out at the beginning of the year on a sub-zero degree day because they were interested in getting more information and learning how they could get into these apprenticeship programs. I was able to get some information from Building and Construction Trades, just to give you a little sense of the turnout. Of those 400 people, 154 of those individuals were actually contacted and asked to come back in for an information and training session. From those 154 people, 50 were actually asked to come in for an actual interview. 7 passed a test and were accepted into a program, and 1 is actually working as an apprentice now already, and that's within the last 6 or 7 months. So we continue to replicate that, or we look forward to replicating that program again in East Harlem. We're going to do it on Penn Station Access Project in the East Bronx, and we're also working with the MTA to do seminars on how to do business with the MTA for small businesses within both of those communities as well.
Thank you. We're going to pivot over to Metro North Railroad.
Hi. As to Metro North, we use our Way Ahead plan specifically to acknowledge our core values, which they include creating strategies to attract and retain a more diverse workforce, including women and minorities. In keeping employees informed of their EEO rights, we specifically target in-person training, such that we have trained approximately 4,600 of our employees just this year alone in person. One member of my staff, they go to either out on the field or block training with conductors and locomotive engineers, or we have training at the specific rooms. We also distribute the policies and make sure that all our employees are aware of the EEO policies. In regarding the key accomplishments, we have focused a lot on the recruitment of women in the professional ranks, specifically with female engineers. We looked at engineer titles and we work with them such that we've increased them quite a bit from 2014 to present. President Rinaldi has also focused quite a bit on the Lunch and Learn series with women engineers, where they meet, educate, and mentor younger colleagues so that they can address issues such as career progression, outlining different career paths for our different employees. As to diversity events, they're targeted to minorities, to women. We've had quite a few events where employees come, they participate, they hear speakers, and they speak on the importance of women as decision makers in the transportation industry. Looking forward, we're looking to, within our programs, attract minorities, attract women, work with HR, who do a fabulous job in getting out there at different events, working with MTA headquarters at recruiting different minorities, women, other type of diverse workforce. Thank you.
Linda?
Thanks, Rhonda. Just quickly, as those of you who are on the ground doing this full time look for ways to improve diversity both for women and other minorities, I just wanted to share one possible strategy in case this hasn't sort of come into your thinking. I learned about a company in Australia that needed to recruit and wanted to recruit diversity, including women. And what they did, instead of advertising for the title, they broke down and identified the skill set that they would be able to train to do the job. And they found, actually, for what they were looking for, nurses just happened to be an ideal set of experiences and skill sets. And so they brought in a number of nurses and trained them for the job, and they turned out to be extremely successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Long Island Railroad.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Fife. I'm the Director of Diversity Management with Long Island Railroad's Office of Diversity Management, and I'm here on behalf of President Ng to speak about Long Island Railroad's efforts to increase representation of women, minorities, veterans, and persons with disabilities. Diversity is a key corporate strategy behind the way we do business. Long Island Railroad continuously strives to build a diverse workforce and to ensure that all employees are given equal opportunity to maximize their potential and establish successful careers. Broadening the pool of talent results in more innovation, which in turn benefits our customers. Long Island Railroad is committed to equal employment opportunity for all employees and applicants for employment. We make every effort to attract, develop, and retain a workforce profile that reflects the diversity of the region's labor pool. Long Island Railroad also operates its services without regard to race, color, national origin in accordance with Title VI and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Our executive team recognizes the importance of leveraging diversity in all Long Island Railroad business practices. We are personally committed to diversity and strongly believe in the business case and benefits of a diverse workforce. We will continue to maximize all opportunities to increase female, minority, veteran, and individuals with disability representation. Between January 1 and June 30th, 2019, our workforce increased by just 15 employees from 7,603 to 7,618. Due to attrition and the work hiring freeze, I should say, total female headcount and percentage representation decreased from 14.9% to 14.6%. However, our minority headcount and percentage of minority representation increased slightly from 36.3% to 36.4%. We still continue to have pockets of representation throughout the workforce in the various job categories. However, once the hiring freeze is lifted, we anticipate getting back to making sure that there's parity in the workforce. And as far as our hiring, we hired a total of 139 new employees, of which 43% were minority and 12% were female. The Office of Diversity Management is responsible for monitoring the agency's EEO program and progress towards EEO goals. On an annual basis, Diversity Management develops goals for underrepresented EEO job groups based on estimated availability percentage and internal job group populations, and disseminates the information to each department, including human resources. Diversity Management reviews all applicant flow reports and ensures that candidate pools are diverse and concurs with every new hire and promotion pursuant to FTA DOT circular requirements. With respect to 2019 accomplishments, Long Island Railroad presented 3 diversity cultural events through May 2019. We view these as prime opportunities to enhance diversity awareness and promote respectful and inclusive work environment. Over 100 managers and supervisors received diversity and EEO training through Long Island Railroad's Management Education Core Curriculum, or MECC, and other training modules. Our staff attended pre-career fairs at 6 colleges with diverse student bodies, including Stony Brook University, Farmingdale State University, Nassau County Community College, and Malloy College. To aid with veteran recruitment, Long Island Railroad staff attended the Queens Veterans Resource Fair. We also collaborated with the MTA Director of All Agency Veterans Recruitment and Staffing Initiatives to distribute job postings to service members and military liaisons. Our goal is to attract and identify individuals who have the best mix of skills and attributes for available positions. Ensuring that all qualified individuals, including individuals with disabilities, can participate in the process is key to achieving this goal. To aid in the recruitment of persons with disabilities, Long Island Railroad staff attended the Suffolk County Disabilities Job Fair. Long Island Railroad currently has in place 2 upward mobility programs, including junior engineer and project management trainees. Junior engineer is a entry-level mentorship training program that introduces participants to the railroad and its various operating and support departments. Specifically, the program is designed to familiarize employees with all aspects of railroad operations. The 52-week curriculum covers signals, track, and structure, and on-the-job training. Upon successful completion of the program, junior engineers are placed in an entry-level management position. Unfortunately, none were hired between January 1 and June 30th due to budget restrictions. The project management trainee is a 2-year entry-level training program consisting of coordination assistance with project administration in the Department of Project Management. Working with seasoned project managers, trainees receive on-the-job training and classroom training in project coordination development, controls, management, scheduling, and estimating. Trainees learn to apply specialized knowledge specific to the requirements of the railroad industry. Through rotational assignments, trainees are given an overview of the railroad and its various operating and support departments. Upon successful completion of the training program, trainees are placed into appropriate entry-level project management positions. Between January 1 and June 30th, 2 project management trainees were hired, including 1 minority, a black male. To assist employees with advancement opportunities, we offer workshops in effective resume writing and interview technique. Applicants were also afforded opportunities to receive constructive feedback on recent interviews. We partnered with Girls Inc. of Long Island to encourage interest in young women to pursue careers in STEM and the railroad industry. They are a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing young women and girls with the skills they need to be leaders in their communities. Girls Inc. combines long-lasting mentorship relationship, a pro-girl environment, and research-based programming to equip girls to navigate gender, economic, and social barriers and to grow up healthy, educated, and independent. The organization also advocates for legislation and policies to increase opportunities and rights for all girls. The Long Island Railroad Expansion Project team shared an overview of the project with Girls Inc. and discussed opportunities for members of the organization to interact with and learn from women leaders on the expansion project. Finally, we will continue with initiatives that make Long Island Railroad attractive to those seeking employment. Preparation is underway. We're following Transit's lead on this to launch 4 pilot employee resource groups, including women's, LGBTQ, veterans, and employees with disabilities by the end of fourth quarter 2019. ERGs are voluntary employee-led groups that foster diverse, inclusive workplace aligned with organization missions, values, goals, business practices, and objectives. Other benefits include the development of future leaders, increased employee engagement, and expanded marketplace reach. We will continue collaborating with the All-Agency Recruitment Task Force to identify and maximize cost-effective opportunities to attract and retain women, minorities, veterans, and persons with disabilities. That concludes my report. I'll be happy to take any questions.
MTA bus.
Good afternoon. My name is Gwendolyn Harleston. MTA Bus is committed to fostering an environment free from discrimination and one that promotes a culture of fairness, inclusion, and diversity. To execute on that commitment, we will continue to identify areas where we have an opportunity to improve the diversity of our workforce and craft strategies to address those opportunities. With that in mind, it is my pleasure to review with you the progress we've made during the first half of 2019 in pursuit of our goals and discuss our plans for the rest of the year. Cultural competence on diversity and inclusion is a very important trait we want to instill in our organization. We believe that this is the foundation for everything we do to ensure that our workforce at all levels reflect the communities we serve. To that end, our bus depots have sponsored very well-received diversity events, highlighted by a Disability Independence Day celebration in July at the Michael J. Quill Depot, where New York City Transit's president, Andy Byford, was a featured speaker. Additionally, we have piloted respect and inclusion gender awareness workshops, and we are taking novel approaches to recruiting for hard-to-fill positions by advertising job opportunities through our customer information screens and MetroCard mobile sales. As a sign of our progress, we have improved in the hiring and promotion of persons with disabilities and females in several job categories when compared to first quarter of 2019. Finally, from a regulatory compliance perspective, I am very pleased to inform you that MTA Bus completed its FTA triennial review of Title VI and EEO programs with no deficiencies found. Moving forward, we will close out 2019 by building on the accomplishments of the first half of the year. So for the rest of 2019, we will continue working with MTA HQ Human Resources in drafting the standardized reasonable accommodation statement for MTA job vacancy postings. We will evaluate bus operator exam requirements. We will continue to seek out new approaches to sourcing minorities and women or in underrepresented job categories. MTA Regional Bus currently hosts an apprenticeship program for students that are graduates of career and technical education high schools throughout the 5 boroughs. Currently, MTA Bus operation has 12.5% of women in their apprenticeship program. We have hopes to increase this number by having career days at the CTE high schools, which have a high enrollment of female applicants. We will kick off with Thomas Edison High School, which has the highest enrollment of female mechanics, with highlighting the various departments within bus operations. In addition, we will have an electric bus on site for the students to view and learn the mechanical operations of the electric bus. We wanted to emphasize how maintenance has changed, using computers for maintenance on the electric bus. Lastly, we want to ensure that MTA employment and exam web pages are accessible for people with disabilities, so we're working with MTA IT department in correcting this. This concludes my presentation.
MTA Transit.
Good afternoon. I'm Joel Andrews, Vice President of Equal Employment Opportunity and Diversity, along with my colleague Patricia Lodge, the Vice President of Human Resources. We're here representing President Andy Byford. Patricia and I are happy to share with the committee information on some of the activities that we've undertaken at New York City Transit to promote and maintain a more diverse and inclusive workforce. But let me start off by saying that the work that we have done in the departments of Equal Employment Opportunity and Diversity and People and Business Transformation are fully aligned with the people priority in our Fast Forward plan. And that priority focuses on the importance of empowering and engaging our employees as the agency continues to make progress in modernizing the entire system. EEO and Diversity and People and Business Transformation are working together continuously to create a one-team culture at New York City Transit that is customer-focused and embraces diversity and inclusion at every level of the organization. These goals are achieved in part by providing management with the tools that they need, the information and inclusive culture training that demonstrates our commitment to become an employee of choice and the agency to be as diverse as the city it serves. New York City Transit is strongly committed to a workplace that is free of all forms of discrimination and harassment. The agency regularly distributes and posts information signed by President Byford that clarify our strong position against the prevention of sexual and other discriminatory harassment, our commitment to equal employment opportunity, and the maintenance of a respectful workplace. We ensure that our commitment to maintaining such a workplace is free from all forms of discrimination, in part by investigations of EEO complaints, including complaints of retaliation, and training every employee on their rights and responsibilities in this regard. Before turning it over to Patricia, I'd like to highlight just a few initiatives and programs that we've launched this year to advance diversity and inclusion, and that's been done under the outstanding leadership of our talented EEO and diversity team that's here today. First, we continue to be amazed and extraordinarily happy at the level of participation and engagement that we've observed from our employees, and when I say our employees, across the MTA enterprise, not just New York City Transit, with respect to the 9 employee resource groups that were launched in January. We call them TEGs, or Transit Employee Groups. Michael just mentioned the initiative that will be undertaken at Long Island Railroad to establish these groups there, and explain that these are employee-led groups that provide participants who share affinities and interests with a forum to discuss common experiences and challenges, and to assist New York City Transit with identifying and addressing workplace and marketplace opportunities. The 9 groups at Transit include the Veterans Groups, Transport Asian, Pride, Multicultural, Latinos and Friends, Empowering Women in Transit, Abilities, Black Employee Groups for Inclusion and Network, and the All-Generational Transit Employee Group. Closely related to the work that we're doing at Transit with respect to the employee groups is the Transit Diversity Council. It was launched, the inaugural meeting was launched in April. It is an example of modeling the best in terms of diversity and inclusion practices. And we're happy to report that President Byford chairs the Transit Diversity Advisory Council. The purpose of the council is to ensure that there is proper collaboration between the leads of the transit employee groups and the executive sponsors. Each group has an executive sponsor, and the executive sponsor is a direct report to President Byford. The goal, again, is to identify and address affinity-related barriers and align those activities with businesses and objectives, and ultimately to champion diversity and inclusion at the MTA. Some of the other programs that we've introduced this year include the Inclusion Just Do It communication campaign that was launched in February at New York City Transit's Senior Leadership Forum. In May, we held a lunch and learn session on the topic of intersectionality, which is to help us to understand how the overlap of multiple social identities, such as race, gender, sexuality, can contribute to a specific type of systemic discrimination. In June, we held various Diversity Awareness Week events, and in August, we launched the Meet the TEG video series to encourage MTA employee participation. That's just a few of the activities that we've done around diversity and inclusion, and at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, the Vice President of Human Resources, Patricia Lodge.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Joel mentioned, the Department of People and Business Transformation and the Department of EEO, we work together. And I want to just talk about a few of the 2019 mid-year workforce highlights that we've accomplished. We've participated so far in about 18 career fairs that were sponsored by different government officials representing New York City Assembly and congressional districts with significant Asian and Hispanic populations. We've also signed a partnership with the City Polytechnic High School, and that's a P-Tech school that's linked to City Tech College. For those of you that don't know, a P-Tech school is a school that goes from grades 9 to 14. So basically they go 9 to 12, like a normal high school, and then they gain an associate degree in years 13 and 14. We've done that with the intent to source people for hard-to-fill science, technology, engineering, and mathematics positions. We'll have the first advisory meeting with City Polytech and other industry partners next month. One of the, or I should say the shared vision that we have with City Poly and New York City Transit is to mutually provide information to City Poly students and teachers that will promote access and awareness regarding New York City Transit. This partnership plan aims to provide City Poly students with a range of activities that will support them in exploring and gaining direct exposure to post-secondary career pathways within New York City Transit and practice and acquire professional technical skills in demand by the industry. Additionally, both parties will work with the Provost of New York City College of
technology to align the curriculum of the grades 9 to 14 program to assist participants in qualifying for specific career roles within transit. As we've mentioned before, it's really important to get the students at a very early age. If they don't know about transit and know about the different career pathways and the different jobs that we have, they won't be interested when they're able to qualify. So our goal is to really get them as early as possible, junior high, high school, and earlier if possible. We've also continued our partnerships with MTA Office of Veterans Recruitment, New York State Department of Labor, and New York City Mayor's Office of People with Disabilities. We also work with New York City DCAS. They have a 55A program, and they encourage and they're always giving workshops to the different agencies with disability information and just basically how to source that population. We've distributed job postings to active military and veteran communities and on the New York at Work Job Board, and we've participated in quarterly vocational rehabilitation advisory council meetings sponsored by NYU Rusk Institute. We've also facilitated gender awareness workshops for a couple of hundred employees. In the last quarter, we've hired 1,527 employees, of which 23% were females. And I note that because that's actually above the current representation in the workplace that is 19% for transit. And that's in spite of the hiring restriction and the freeze, we've still been able to achieve that. A couple of our year-end initiatives, we're going to expand outreach of employment opportunities through distribution of monthly notice of exam schedules on over 50 New York City community boards and promotion of jobs on the 8 display platforms to New York City customers. I don't know if any of you have noticed the job platform on the display in the subways, but if you haven't, please take a look at it. It looks really good. We're also going to be holding the first biannual awards program to nominate employees who have embodied and practiced the Fast Forward guiding principles, which are safety, customer service, teamwork, leadership, diversity and inclusion, and accountability. As Joel mentioned, Andy Byford's 4 priorities, he gives equal priority to the people aspect of the organization. And doing that, we feel it's really important to recognize our employees, because without them, we really wouldn't be able to accomplish what we're accomplishing. We're also going to be distributing the On Track to Wellness monthly newsletter to provide employees with tips to promote workplace and overall well-being. We want to keep our employees as healthy as possible. Our HR staff will be attending disability sensitivity training in October, actually starting tomorrow. We thought that this was important because we're really the first line of contact with not just employees, but before they become employees as candidates. So it's really important that we have this training. Lastly, we're going to be attending October's National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and we're going to be attending an event at the Viscardi Center next week and a couple of other events. And that concludes my report.
Last but not least, MTA Bridges and Tunnels.
Good evening, not even good afternoon, right? Good evening to everyone. First, I just wanted to thank Sean Moore for her efforts in EEO and diversity. I know she walked out just as I was going to thank her, but she texted me to say she had to run to another meeting. But Sean really brought us to this point at Bridges and Tunnels. You know, for a smaller agency with approximately 1,340 employees, you know, to say that 56% of our employees are minorities, 21% are women, I think is a great accomplishment, but we still want to continue that effort and move forward with that. That being said, we hired about 5 employees since January up through June, and 80% were minorities, 40% were women. And I'm not going to go through the strategies to improve the utilization in the workforce in the book. That's starts on page 45. But I just want to highlight a couple of things that we're doing because of the hiring freeze and the things that I've heard here today. We look at it as how do we retain people? How do we keep people at our agency when we're in the middle of the transformation, we're in the middle of the hiring freeze. So we looked at, and what we did was we took our a senior leadership task force to see how we move people within the organization as a reorg. And we looked at women, and we looked at minorities, and we looked at people that usually are not comfortable in certain positions, and how do we give them those skill sets? How do we introduce them to those areas? And that was something we really worked at since January. And I'm proud to say a lot of people are now doing double duty and getting to learn different areas. And in the beginning, it was a little kicking and screaming from some people, but I think people are starting to recognize that this is where we need to be in the future. And one of the things we're looking at going forward is a brown bag, where we're going to have different department heads host what their departments do in the organization. Because what we're finding when you go around and you're asking people, do you know what operations does? Do you know what maintenance does? And these are the areas where we don't have a lot of women in. And we like to bring the women and people, minorities, into these groups to describe what we do. And somebody mentioned, I think Commissioner Lacewell mentioned about skill sets. You know, we don't want them to be afraid of the title of maintenance or be afraid of the title of operations. But what are the skill sets we're looking for to maintain the employees, to keep them at our agency, and possibly for them to have an opportunity through this transformation to move into another area that they would not have if we didn't do these efforts with the brown bag and with this task force. So, and the rest of the strategies start on page 45. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And we share your sentiment with employing strategies as we have done on the business side, which has led us to an historic year. And as I indicated to Chairman Foy a couple of weeks ago, that the MTA is going to be the only agency in this region in the country that does not have a national footprint to pay at least $1 billion to minority women-owned firms in 1 year. So we're going to achieve that this year, and that's thanks to the leadership, thanks to the governor, and thanks to the hardworking staff that come in here every day and execute the mission of the Department of Diversity and Civil Rights. George is going to give us a quick update on the small business mentoring program, and what's key to that is that two weeks ago, Governor Andrew Cuomo signed a new bill extending this program for the next 10 years. George.
Thanks, Michael. Good evening, Chairperson Herman. Full report is on page 96 of the diversity book. And since the inception of our program, we have awarded 391 contracts totaling $394 million. Currently, this year's goal, we're looking to spend about $80 million in contracts for the first 6 months of this year. We have awarded 23 contracts totaling a little over $36 million. This year, we also recruited 7 service-disabled veteran-owned business. 3 firms were awarded contracts totaling a little under $1 million. With regards to our loan program, since the inception, we have 117 loans that have been issued, totaling a little over $16 million. And our surety bond program, we have yielded $344 million in surety bonds to our contractors. As Mike mentioned, with the success of our program, which expired at the end of this year, state legislature recently approved to extend the program for another 10 years to December of 2029. With that said, our current status with the program, again, we're very proud of what we have done this past 10 years. We continue to achieve our goals, and the trend is continuing upwards. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Ray Burke is going to give us a quick summary overview of our MWDBE contract compliance efforts and results.
Good afternoon. I'll be reporting on MWDBE and SDVO contract compliance. The overall MTA MWBE goal is 30% during the state's first quarter FY 2019-2020, which is April 2019 through June 2019. MWBE participation in contracts award was 15%. The MWBE participation in payments on ongoing contracts was 29%. The state tracks MWBE goal attainment by contract payments, not awards. The overall MTA SDVOB goal is 6%. During that same time frame, the SDVOB participation in contract awards was 2%, and the SDVOB participation in payments on ongoing contract was 3%. As far as DBE is concerned, the MTA DBE goal is 18%. During the first half of the fiscal year, which is October 2018 through March 2019, the DBE participation in contract awards is 24%. The DBE participation in payments on ongoing contracts is 23%. The FTA tracks DBE attainments by contract awards and payments and payments on closed contracts. Continuing with contract compliance, in contracts, our contracts we've been monitoring have been increasing. We are currently monitoring over 1,800 contracts. In 2018, we monitored about 1,500 contracts. In 2018, as far as site visits are concerned, DDCR conducted 667 site visits. From January through June of this year, we've already conducted 350 site visits, which works out to be an average of 58 monthly site visits, exceeding our 50 per month goal. We conduct site visits to basically outroot fraud in our contracts. On closed contracts in 2018, DDCR closed 122 contracts. From January through June of this year, we've closed already 55 contracts, which works out to be an average of 9 per month. The trends, the overall status, WB and SDVOB goals are not being met. The trends are upward for SDVOB participation and constant for WBE participation. The issue with WBE is that we have our legacy contracts, in which those contracts that were awarded with a less than 30% goal through historic contracts, which were basically due to a lack of availability or just specialized requirements on the contracts. SDVOB, the program is only 3 years old, and overall there's only about 600 firms that are certified in the program, with less than 100 contractors in our region. That's our hurdle at this particular time. The strategy going forward, we will continue to expand our relationship by heavily recruiting various women, veterans, and minority trade groups and associations to identify qualified firms in minority communities. We will also continue to attend MWBE and SDVOB outreach events. In particular, there's a veterans conference called VetCom that we'll attend in November 2019. Other initiatives is to design smaller contracts in the range of $3 million to about $15 million to basically attract prime opportunities for MWBE and DBE and SDVOB participation. Also, due to legislative actions in Albany, the discretionary spend threshold was increased from $400,000 to $1 million, which is very important. And in addition, hiring an additional MWDBE and SDVOB contract compliance staff is essential. On capital projects, the MTA goal for DBE is 18%. The first half of fiscal year for DBE, we're at 20% DBE participation in contract awards and 27% participation in payments. The MTA goal for MBE is 15%. The first quarter fiscal year for this year, we're at 18% MBE participation in contract awards and 9% MBE participation in payments on ongoing contracts. The MTA WBE goal is 15%. During the same period, our participation in contract awards is 21%, and participation in payments is 10%. The SDVOB goal is 6%. Our contract participation in that area is only 2%, and 0.21% in participation in payments and ongoing contracts. The trend is the same as before. The MWBE and SDVOB goals are not being met. The issues are the same as I mentioned before, and our plan for improvements are the same. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Ray. We already talked about the legal fees, and optimistically, that Governor Cuomo's 30% goal in this area will be achieved this year by working with the agencies and bringing the firms in and better integrating them into the business practices of our agencies. Financial services, Pat Isom is going to give us an update.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the report is from April through June 2019. MWBE and SDVO fees paid was 77.95%. Specifically, MBE payments was 50.45%, WBE payments was 17%, and SDVOB payments was 10.5%. Thus, there was a total of 67.45% of underwriter fees paid to MWBE certified firms and 10.5% of underwriter fees paid to SDVOB certified firms.
What's that number again?
The total was 77.95%.
So you guys are leading by example, right?
We're trying. We're doing our best.
No, you're not trying. You're leading by example, because I know that this is the highest MWBE rates in the state of New York and almost in the country if you're talking about just fees paid to minority women-owned firms, right?
Yeah, well, and just to kind of give more color to what we actually done is in its status, all the goals were met because the finance department completed one negotiated transaction during this period, and it was an all MWBE SDVOB transaction. So we actually had a situation where we actually did a mini RFP to all of the certified MWBE and SDVOB firms in our underwriting syndicate, and actually had them propose how to do a bond transaction. And as a result, the firm that won was the transaction was led by the joint venture team, the MBE team of Williams Capital Group and PNC Capital. And that group, and Williams Capital Group is a certified MBE firm. So basically that was the reason why we were able to achieve such a great transaction, a great position.
So you're leading by example, and you've dispelled the myth that certified minority women-owned firms do not have the qualifications to lead deals.
No, that's absolutely right.
All right.
And just to add, the MBE firm, the Williams Capital Group, the lead banker on it is actually an African-American woman as well.
Got it.
So this transaction has allowed the MTA department to exceed the governor's 30% MWBE goal and 6% SDVOB goal for this period. In addition, it set a solid foundation for the MTA Finance Department to meet or exceed the MWB and SDVOB goals for the remainder of the state fiscal year.
Thank you for a job well done.
No problem. Thank you.
Last but not least, asset fund managers. The new CIO is not here. However, we currently have $1.3 billion in assets being managed by MWBE asset fund managers. That concludes the September Diversity Committee meeting, and we have a question.
No, let me just make a comment. This is the first session that I've participated in, and I'll try to be very quick since everyone has been here for an hour and a half. I want to thank everybody for this incredibly exciting presentation that was made by everyone around the table. The extraordinary and important work that's being done is just really noteworthy. I've spent many years in the public sector in New York City and always thought the public sector had an incredibly important role to play in providing good, well-paying, middle-class jobs with opportunities for people to do work. My work with the city, I thought that jobs like architects' jobs, engineers, accountants, police, fire, sanitation, besides all the normal jobs of RNs and teachers where women and minorities have often wound up, that there was such an important reason to expand. Nothing is more exciting than the work that the MTA is doing now, and at the threshold with all that it is doing to transform the way the service is delivered and the capital program that's about to begin. What an exciting and important group of jobs the MTA provides, and all of the work we do with other contractors to make certain that they also are bringing in minority, talented, and diverse folks. So it was a pleasure to be here, and I am glad I participated, and I plan to participate again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lacewell.
Thank you. At the risk of gilding the lily drawn by Commissioner Lynn, echoing your remarks, I just want to also express my appreciation for the work that you all do and that your teams do, especially making opportunities available for jobs and for learning in schools in the neighborhoods where we do the work and where people are affected and ought to have the opportunity to participate. And the making of contracts available across communities pays dividends because everyone has the opportunity to do the work. That leads to other jobs. It leads to more experience on their part and further contracts. And I think helps build all communities, which makes us all stronger as a larger community. So I just wanted to echo that as well. Thank you.
I echo both my colleagues' sentiments, and in the interest of the fact that it's after 6, I'm not going to repeat it. So I'm now going to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you. We are adjourned.